Hey folks, welcome back. How's it going? And welcome to another edition of Somewhere Downrange. That's what I'm calling it. Today I have an offering for you that I have more or less decided to entitle Requiem for a Light Heavyweight. I was on a chat the other night with the Turkey's Opinion. He's a great guy and he's got a good following. He's really rolling on up there and lives up in Ohio. Don't hold that against him. But he sure has a lot of fun out in his backyard. And it's nice when you can do that. I get to do that from time to time, but I have to use a different backyard. We were talking on the chat, and as always happens in that chat, 10mm auto comes up. And calibers that are around that and what you could step up to from there. And there's been a lot of talk. He's been paying a lot of attention to a weapon recently introduced called the 500 Bushwhacker. And if you don't know about that one, you need to check it out, because if you're into firing handheld artillery and being capable of taking Superman out, that's a cartridge that I think could do it. Awesome gun. And it's a development from T2 Armory, and them boys know what they're doing. It is an awesome looking cartridge. But in the chat, some of the talk turned to the 41 Magnum, and it didn't take a long-winded step. It didn't cover the profile for the next half hour, but it was in mention quite a bit. And I got to thinking, some of the things that people said about the 41 Mag and what knowledge was out there. And the question did arise, and the guys from T2 Armory chimed in on it really quickly, and they're not just of the opinion, they understand, like a lot of us do when it comes to handheld hand cannons, why this light heavyweight, the 41 Mag, really seemed to suffer a great deal of being not really paid a lot of attention to and underappreciated. And there are two main reasons for that underappreciation. If you look at the history of the development of the cartridge, back in, well, as far as 55, 56, Elmer Keith was talking about the need or the desire with Remington in development of a cartridge that lie right there kind of in the middle between the beast of the 44 Mag that was already developed and in major use as a hunting cartridge for handguns, and the 357 Magnum that was in use as a hunting round, but also some police departments and law enforcement agencies were picking it up and kind of falling in love with it a little bit. And in 1962 or 3, Keith, Bill Jordan, Skeeter Skelton, they were all instrumental in the development with Remington of the 41 Remington Magnum cartridge. And had it more or less, the ideal platform idea was to be able to have this cartridge that was just a tiny bit smaller than 44 Mag, a little bit bigger than 357, and was capable of firing 200, 210 grain bullets at velocities in a range of, for hunting, somewhere in the 1450, 1500 feet per second range, and down to, for law enforcement use, 990, 1000 feet per second. I mean, you have to admit, you say that's kind of slow, but you're talking about a 200 or 210 grain bullet. It's just like getting hit with a high-powered 45 ACP or 45 Colt. And so, you know, they developed this cartridge. They got it out in 63 and 64. Remington's making this. And they basically had two offerings. A hunting offering, which was 210 grain bullets at 1500 feet per second. They had a law enforcement load that exceeded the muzzle velocities that they had first thought about, the 990, the 1000, cranking this out in the high 1100s. And they sent this out to law enforcement agencies for trials and say, hey, look, we've got this new offering, and it's a bit, it ought to be a great cartridge. And so it got into some testing, and a lot of law enforcement agencies were looking at it. But they all came away with just about the same opinion, with the exception of just a couple of law enforcement agencies that you might call, what's a good modern term for it? Toxic masculinity-based organizations like, Texas Rangers, things like that. They all, with those exceptions, they all say, hey, look, yeah, it's a hell of a cartridge, but, damn, it's got some recoil. Damn, it's loud. And, all us guys, we're used to shooting Model 10s and 38 Special, and some of us might be carrying 357s, and yeah, they launch jet planes, but those weapons are lighter guns than the one you're giving us. And that was the second point, was Smith & Wesson, when they released a platform for it, instead of having that forward-looking bent that might very well have changed the course of history for this cartridge, they said, look, we're just going to reconfigure the end frames that we're already using for the 44 Magnum, just put the 41 in it. Well, that's all fine, well and good. It's a big old beefy platform, and it's certainly going to handle the cartridge's pressures. There's no doubt about that. But the guys that were on the streets, riding in the cars and wearing the weapons all day, the last thing they wanted to have to do was trade in their 32 or 33 ounce Model 10 or Model 13 for a weapon that weighed over 40 ounces empty and was as big as a brick. Now, I can understand their opinion on that. In 1981, as a police officer, I carried an in-frame revolver. It was my very first duty weapon. I worked for a very small town, and you had to bring your own toys. And I had a Smith & Wesson in-frame Model 27, 357 mag with a 5-inch barrel. And you think it wasn't like wearing a brick on my hip every day for 12 hours a day? Sadly mistaken, because it was. But I was a young man. And I was, actually at the time still in state military. I was an artilleryman. I was used to carrying heavy stuff, and it didn't bother me much. But there are just a lot of other people out there in the law enforcement world that, especially in the early and mid-'60s, weren't all that into going to the gym every day and exercising and working out. I mean, you look at the police officers of the mid-'60s, physique-wise, as compared to most of your police officers you see today, especially the young guys that hit the gym every day 2 hours before they go on shift, you'll see a great disparity amongst the ability of the on-the-street, on-duty line officer to tote a bunch of heavy crap around. They just weren't going to do it, and law enforcement agencies weren't going to force them to do it. So law enforcement, for the most part, said, yeah, it's a fun little thing. Well, it's a slapper, and it does a good job, but we need something else. We want something else. And at that time, there were a limited variety of semi-auto platforms coming out and coming into use with law enforcement agencies anyway. There was plenty of 9mm out there, and a lot of them were using government models and 45s, so you had greater magazine capacity, you had more firepower, you had a lighter weapon than the Model 58 M-frame. And so they opted for that. And so, due to that reasoning and those two little things, the 41 Magnum kind of, it hit an early plateau for the people that liked something like that, and then it just stayed right there. And the longer it just stayed right there, the less civilian popularity it gained and law enforcement. So that meant, really, we don't need to crank out an ass load of ammunition for this thing. We're not going to tool up and run out millions of rounds of 41 mag every month or even every year. We're going to offer it, we're going to load it, there's plenty of them out there, but we're just not going to make as much of it as we do 45 ACP, 357 Magnum, 40 Smith & Wesson, or back in the day, 45 Colt even. It's hard to find 45 Colt, but they just tooled up to make different ammunition that was in greater use and more popular. The result of that was the fact that hand loading components for that cartridge were never nearly as plentiful. And even today, if you're a hand loader and you own one of these like I do, and you like to hand load for it, you better save every goddamn case you've got, because getting new ones is an expensive proposition, especially nowadays. I mean, 3-4 years ago, it was still kind of, Jesus, man, you want how much for a case? Now, whew. So if you've got the components, you're lucky. It just really is a sad thing that they couldn't parse down a platform. I mean, that end frame, 41 ounces, they could just parse that down. If they just come out with something just a little bit, the L frame, like maybe an M frame, there's no telling where that cartridge would have gone. And it's one hell of a fine cartridge. You say, well, if you've got a 41 mag, Brad, why not have a 44 mag? Well, right, especially if you're hunting bears. And believe me, a lot of people in Alaska will tell you, 44s and 41s, dead even acceptability in bear country. Dead even. A little greater popularity at times among certain circles with the 41 mag due to the fact that its recoil is just about literally half of the 44 mag. Yet it still delivers one hell of a punch. And that's something to be said for the cartridge as well. So this isn't really a video where we're going to say we're going to compare apples and oranges or bananas and bricks. It's not in that tone. I really just want to kind of get it out there that if you got one of these and you are one of the underappreciated, I'm with you. I feel your pain. But when you stop and think about it, all 4 of these weapons I've got here are of a caliber that starts with 4. So we're not breaking the golden rule of if you go to a gunfight, bring a gun that starts with a caliber of at least 4. But they're all in this group of very accepted, some time-honored calibers that are man-stoppers. Now, like I said, we're not trying to compare, because really when you look at the data and you look at the math of these 4 weapons in front of me here, a 45 Colt, a government model 45 ACP, a government model 10 mil auto, and the model 58 in 41 mag. If you look at the data, if you look at the results and the performance, hands down, this weapon kicks the ass of these 3 other weapons. Physics says so. And you're looking at things like 10 mil auto. Well, yeah, you can get some 200 grain bullets for it, and you can step them on that there. But when you approach 1,300 feet per second with a 200 grain bullet, man, you're spitting some fire, especially with a jacketed round. 45 ACP, 230 grain, 200 grain, hollow point, even defense ammo. Where are you going to run it at? Mid-9s? Maybe the high 9s? To be safe? 45 Colt, 255 grain lead bullet on cowboy action loads at 750, and with 250 grain half jacketed flat nose defensive or duty rounds at the mid to high 9s or just over 1,000. Yeah, that's still a whack, but it doesn't get anywhere close to the performance that you can get with a 210 grain bullet at 1,500 feet per second. Man, that's a screamer, and I guarantee you it's delivering more energy than any of those other platforms. So that's why I entitled it Requiem for a Light Heavyweight. Even though it was underappreciated and it never really got the showing it could have got, and because of that, we all suffer as far as hand loaders go. on not being able to get the components nearly as readily as we can. 45, 9mm, 38 Super, 10 mil auto. Hell, it's easier to get components for a 45 Colt, and that's always been one of the hardest, than it is for 41 mag. So I just want to drag her out today and give her a little showing and kind of help build a little appreciation maybe amongst those who never really have had the chance to get any info on one other than the anecdotal information or the quips in the gun stores of it's a 41. If you got a 41, you might as well have a 44. A Requiem for a light heavyweight. So stand by and let's take a close-up view of the weapons we're going to be utilizing in the video today out at the range. And like I said, we've got 2 government model platforms and we've got 2 wheel guns. Now we have the Colt 45, we have the Smith & Wesson Model 58, not to be confused with the adjustable sight equipped Model 57. This is the Model 58, just a regular rear groove, fixed sight, combat duty handgun. 45 ACP and 10mm auto. Let's give them a look. Let's look at the pretties. What do you say? Stand by and check them out. All right, there's some pretties, ain't they? And they're all badasses. So what do you say we go ahead and throw these puppies in a case and head out the back door to the range and see what's happening downrange? Before we do, I'll show you another little picture of the calibers, the ammunition that we're using. And the ammunition pictured is the ammunition we're going to utilize. And got one each representing our respective platforms. And when you look at them, you go, yeah, they're all man stoppers. I mean, let's face it. 45 Colt. Some of you call it the long Colt. Fine. 250 grain blue whistlers have been knocking the bad guys into their boxes for 150 years. 41 mag, 45, 10 mil auto. Let's take a look at them. All right, let's throw these in a box and head to the range. What do you say? Grab your shit and come on, and let's get out there and make some noise. Stand by. Hey folks, welcome back to What the Hell is Happening Downrange today. Glorious, beautiful day, nice afternoon. I think we picked a good time for it, very little wind. Well, I'm glad you were able to come out here to the range with me today. And we brought those 4 hand cannons. Well, 1 hand cannon, a couple of other big ones. And we're going to give this thing a test like we talked about a while ago. And just to give you a little setup on this, I've got 2 tests we're going to do. The first test is going to involve demonstrating the hydrostatic shock that's delivered when each of these 4 different calibers hit something full of water, like your intended target when you're in a self-defense situation or your intended target when you're hunting. We're going to go in order from what I kind of see as lowest to highest. First shot going to be with the 45 ACP with a 230 grain XTP, running about 920. Then we've got the 45 Colt, and it ain't shooting cowboy loads. It's a duty defense round. It's half jacketed, hollow point. Then we're going to step up to the 10 mil auto. That's running a Hornady 155 grain XTP. And it's pushing it right about 1300. 1325 if I remember the data. And the last one, going to be the 41 mag out of that end frame 4-inch. And that is a factory loaded Spear Gold Dot. It ought to be pretty spicy to say the least. Now I've got those 4 soda jugs lined up down there on the target board, and we'll spin the camera around, get you a good angle to see the impacts. After that test, we're going to do a second test. Hopefully it'll kind of demonstrate the different amount of kinetic energy delivered. I've got 4 monopolymer based targets. They're round, they're 8 inches, and they're pretty heavy. But they'll sit on that target board, and when we hit them, we'll go in the same order. I'll have the camera angle adjusted so that you can see from the side how far the plates go off of the target rack to the ground. I think you're going to see some difference in that. I'm hoping you will anyway. I'm hoping we do. This material, when you hit it with an FMJ or something like that, just zips right through it if it's fast enough. But using hunting or self-defense ammunition, those bullets hopefully will start to open up. They'll deliver a lot more energy, and we'll get to see that demonstrated in how far away from the target board, the target stand, those targets land. And I think we've got it all set up. I had some cows moving through, but it looks like they decided to go ahead and head south of me, and that's a good thing. That means I won't have to wait on them. So stand by. I'm going to get these camera angles adjusted, get the weapons loaded up. I'm going to be shooting from 15 yards. And we'll see what we see. So stand by. More to come. All right, we're going to put the first round, the 45 ACP, on that grape soda jug on the far left. Just kind of toppled it, didn't it? Okay, now we're going to put the 45 Colt on that strawberry jug just to the right of it. Hopefully. Pretty sure I hit it high, but that's okay. Alright, now we're going to go for that blue raspberry with the 10 mil auto. That definitely made a difference. All right. Let's see what kind of explosive action we get from the underappreciated 41 mag on that orange soda bottle. That, friends, is a demonstration of the difference of hydrostatic pressure available through those 4 rounds. All right, now stand by. I'm going to get some targets reset, get the camera angle reset, and we're going to see what happens on the next test. Be right back. All right, we've got our camera angle changed. We've got our plates set up on that rack, and we're going to go in the same order we went with the soda jugs. Left to right, 45 ACP, 45 Colt, 10 mil auto, and 41 Magnum. let's see what kind of results we get on this. Stand by. Little twirly. It's always fun when they do that. See what the cowboy gun do. Oh, a little bit better twirly. That 250 grain bullet talks to him, don't it? How about a little 10 mil auto spice? What do you say? I think that one went right through it, even though it's a defensive load. All right, try a little gold dot from that 44 mag, or 41 mag, pardon me. I like them both. Woo! Spun her. She spun her. All right, let's check them out, see what we got. Stand by. All right, let's check out the damage. Okay, so basically on a line, in the foreground is the 45 ACP. Directly behind it, a little to the left, is the long Colt. All the way to the right, just behind the leg of the target stand, is the 10 mil auto. And at the very back is the 41 mag. Let's check it out. See what we see. Alrighty, we got honeybees in action already. Awesome, cool. They love that soda pop. Alright. There's a 45 ACP round, or the butt of one anyway. That's some pretty tough stuff. That monomer stuff that they build the water systems out of, that my buddy Chris does. If you can stop a 45 ACP, I'd call that some pretty damn good body armor. Here we got the 45 long Colt, and as you can see, the biggest fresh divot in it. One heck of an impact, but we don't have an exit. But it literally is down in there a good, probably a solid 3/4 of an inch, maybe 7/8. Now this is the 10 mil auto, and you would think it would be back there further, but I want you to see something. You see that swirly gig sticking out of the back? That's what happens when a bullet squirts through one of these plates. Goes right on through and does not stop. That's the reason why this plate fell short of the others, because that bullet just zipped right on through. And we have the 41 mag plate, and as you can see, it's got a squirt stem on it too. Just off on the very side, about a 3/4 of an inch by center. So that's why I just twirled like crazy and didn't go back very far. Didn't go back much further than the 45 long Colt did again. Let's go ahead and set this back up and get a better center hit and see what kind of reaction we get. Stand by. Alright, see if we can get a little bit better centered. Zipped right through it. I bet $1 to a donut. Saw that big dirt jet jump up behind it. I guarantee you, that bad boy went right on through. Let's check it out. Yep, got the little jet tail out the back end of it. Got a much better center hit. You damn near see daylight through it. Hard to register that kinetic energy when it comes zipping out of there so fast. You can see how it literally pulls the tail of that material out with it. It's some tough stuff, but it ain't gonna stop the 41. or 10 mil for that fact of the matter. All right, let's get a little after action. What do you say? Stand by. Now, just for those of you that are curious on the soda jugs, now the grape and the strawberry that were hit with the 45s, they suffered some damage, mainly holes, a little bit of split. But what you're looking at here are the jugs that were hit by the 10 mil auto and the 41 mag respectively. And man, them puppies got some ripping and tearing going on. So yeah, much greater hydrostatic pressure. And some bad boys. Stand by. Well, hey folks, what do you think? I think we demonstrated something. Not anything earth-shattering or anything like that. Just a little demonstration showing with two different tests, hydrostatic pressure on a water-filled vessel or fluid-filled vessel, and kinetic energy against a fairly hard target. I know that stuff that Chris uses in building the devices that they use and the plants they use, that's some tough stuff. 45 ACP barely got in it and stopped. 45 Long Colt took it for a ride. It actually was the distance winner for the 4 rounds we fired. But in defense of the 10 mil auto and the 41 mag, they just zip on through. I got a feeling that them plates had been twice as thick, we probably would have got to see them fly a lot farther. So in my opinion, yeah, that 41 mag has got it. It did throw its plate a good foot and a half further than the 10 mil auto did. And the tail was longer, so yeah, they're badasses. But I just wanted to come out today and kind of give the old 41 mag some love. She don't get shot much. She spends most of her time in the safe, but every now and then I like to drag her out. And I really hope you guys took a little away from it, maybe learned a little from it. I know that that was a very impressive hit on that soda jug. Everything else was kind of jumping and a little spraying, and well, that 41 mag hit, you know it. There's a lot of hydrostatic pressure coming off of that, and there certainly should have been. But anyway, I'm glad you guys got to come out and see me. I'm glad I got the chance to come out here. It's going to be raining like hell the next several days in central Oklahoma, more than likely. Next weekend, I'll probably be busy doing a move, but I'll try to get something lined up for you guys. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Hit that like button if you liked it. Hit the dislike if you didn't. I don't care. You're not going to insult me. I've been around way too long. Had worse happen to me. Guarantee it. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you guys have a great day. And as always, hopefully, here real soon, I'll see you good folks somewhere downrange. Bye.